In the shadowed mists of legend, Hyrule and Lorule are two worlds that are familiar, yet antithetical to one another, their histories uniquely distinct. In Hyrule, the River of Time has carved separate channels, leading to splintered paths and alternate futures. Many are familiar with the fragmented timelines of Hyrule, where each hero's choice shapes the destiny of the land. But what of Lorule? Could its timeline be just as broken? To understand Lorule's potential timeline, we first need to revisit the intricate timelines of Hyrule. Investigating this question will be the goal of this video. I invite you to join me as we ponder the potential of Lorule's chronological state and the critical effect it could have on the Legend of Zelda as a whole. My name is Caleb, you're watching the Fused Kinstone, and this is how Lorule's timeline could change everything. What if I told you that two links from entirely separate timelines could meet each other because of the existence of Lorule? That might sound absurd, but once you understand how time works in The Legend of Zelda, the idea becomes hard to ignore. Stick around to the end and you will see how this is possible. Before we delve into this investigation in earnest, it's important that I give you an overview on my current position when it comes to the canon layout of the timeline. Without getting too sidetracked with the many details in regards to the reasoning, allow me to briefly set the stage so that we can all be on the same page when exploring this topic. A timestamp is on screen now in case you would like to get straight into what would happen if Lorule has a split timeline like Hyrule. I realize that I'm asking you to take this viewpoint on good faith, so if you would like a more in-depth look at the chronology explained here, please drop a comment and I might do a video on it if there is enough interest. With that being said, I believe the information coming up will be interesting regardless of the way you believe the timeline to be laid out.
Past, present, future. The Master Sword is a ship with which you can sail upstream and downstream through Time's river. The port for that ship is in the Temple of Time.
Here are Hyrule's timelines from the Fused Kinstone's perspective. Quickly, let me point out the differences from the timelines presented in the books. First, let's look at the adult timeline, which I will refer to as the Adult River. This will be aligning with Sheik's explanation of time, as well as prevent overuse of the word timeline in this video. As you can see, there is a linear path extending from Skyward Sword, past Ocarina of Time, the Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, all the way to Spirit Tracks. The reason this is noteworthy is because it denotes that this is the prime timeline. This includes events such as Link and Zelda living on the surface at the end of Skyward Sword. Nearly the entire game of Ocarina of Time takes place in the prime timeline, up until the end of the game where Link travels back to being a child and the road between times is closed. Because this river doesn't split until the end of the game, this means that most of the events we experience in Ocarina of Time occur in the Adult River. Princess Zelda and the survivors of Ganondorf's reign in the Adult Timeline carry on towards their own future. This course eventually leads into the Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. Next, bring your attention to the beginning of the Child River, representing the Child Timeline. This tributary branches from the Adult River when Link descends upon the Master Sword pedestal at the end of Ocarina of Time. Due to the road between times being closed from the Adult River side, the actions taken in the present cannot flow downstream to the Adult River. Think of the road between times being closed as a dam of sorts. preventing the flow of water from continuing down the adult path. With the dam in place, the flow of time must diverge into a new future. This becomes what you know as the child timeline. Many years after the events of Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess takes place. The third river, representing the final timeline, is where some distinct differences from the book's assertions begin to show up. These books claim that the third branch of the river appears when the hero of time failed against Ganon, and somehow this triggered a timeline split. In my lore-accurate chronology, this river's point of origin can be traced back to Skyward Sword. This timeline theory is known as the Skyward Sword Split. I believe that this theory more closely adheres to the lore established in Ocarina of Time regarding how the Annals of Time are split in The Legend of Zelda. I refer to this as the third branch because the term downfall timeline is inaccurate for two reasons. First, there is no Zelda game that shows the hero of time canonically failing to defeat Ganon, nor is such a thing ever referenced in any Zelda game. Secondly, this third timeline is the one with the Golden Era referenced in Zelda 2, where the kings of Hyrule used the Triforce for the good of the land. These two facts make the idea of naming it Downfall a bit absurd. In order for the road between times to be closed, the door of time had to shut from the adult side, and the Master Sword had to be laid to rest. In accordance with these parameters, the ending of Skyward Sword most accurately fulfills these requirements. With the destruction of the Gate of Time, and with Link's farewell to Fi and the Master Sword, all of the ingredients needed to facilitate a timeline split are present. The original time of Link, Zelda, and Groose goes on to lead to the Adult River, while the third branch comes from the past where Link slew Demise. This nicely reflects the split at the end of Ocarina of Time. Continuing on from the altered past of Skyward Sword, the surface is resettled and the Kingdom of Hyrule takes form. This leads into the Minish Cap and its backstory, Four Swords, and Four Swords Adventures. This not only neatly brings the Capcom titles together, but also recontextualizes the issue of Ganondorf 2 that racked theorists when Four Swords Adventures first came out. A Link to the Past and its backstory come next, followed by the Oracles games and Link's Awakening. A Link Between Worlds and Triforce Heroes are next, followed by Echoes of Wisdom, Hyrule Fantasy, and The Adventure of Link. Finally, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, as well as the Zonai Kingdom, all come long after the end of Zelda 2. Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, Age of Imprisonment, and other spin-offs weren't included due to issues with canon as well as for sake of brevity. I'm certain that there will be questions about the details in this timeline, so if that's the case, please fire away in the comments section. I really appreciate the interaction, even when it challenges the topic of this video. I have more videos that you might enjoy, so feel free to look through the channel for those as well. If you decided to like the video and subscribe, thank you so much. Now that you have an idea of where I'm coming from in regards to the timeline, let's get into the heart of the video's query. What about Lorule? Having navigated the intricacies of Hyrule's diverging timelines, let's briefly delve into the tapestry of Lorule's chronology. Unlike its effulgent counterpart, Lorule's past is cloaked in decay. Its more detailed history remains largely untold. Princess Hilda of Lorule regales us with the story of her ancestors' folly. She recalls.
Long ago, Lorule possessed a sacred golden treasure. It could grant the wish of anyone who touched it. It was known as the Triforce in our world, as it is in yours. Many sought to control the Triforce, plunging Lorule into endless war. our kingdom was on the verge of ruin. My ancestors got rid of the Triforce to stop the war by destroying it, utterly and absolutely. It was done with good intentions, but it had disastrous consequences. The Triforce was the foundation of our world, and without it our kingdom crumbled.
Their legends speak of elders who, fearing the Triforce's omnipotent power, destroyed their realm's sacred relic to avert catastrophe. This act, while preserving Lorule from endless wars, left lasting scars on the land and shaped the destiny revealed to us in The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. It is unknown to us whether anyone in Lorule has ever traversed the flow of time in that land. However, I would like to present this mystery to you. If Hyrule's heroes from the various timelines managed to transport themselves to Lorule, where, or should I say when, would they appear in that world? Is Lorule bound by the splintered timelines of Hyrule, or does its flow of time remain unified, unaffected by the shenanigans of Hylian temporal manipulation? The answers to this question could have immense impact on the world of Hyrule in all timelines. It could provide a plausible solution to many unanswered questions, or it could complicate possibilities even further than before. By the end of this video, I hope you will see what I mean. There are two viewpoints that I would like to explore. On the one hand, we will consider how Lorule would be affected if its timeline is inherently connected to Hyrule's. Just as Hyrule has multiple timelines, Lorule would also share those same splits. On the other hand, what if Lorule is completely unaffected by Hyrule's temporal issues? Where Hyrule has its splits, Lorule would have a single unified timeline. Seeing these two scenarios out to their logical conclusions may show us new possibilities, or may unlock even deeper mysteries. Let's begin with the more straightforward explanation. If Hyrule and Lorule's timelines are intertwined, then it would mean that because events in Hyrule caused their timeline to split apart, some mechanic or some mirror event would cause Lorule's to split in the same way as well. The mirrored nature of these worlds would remain in synchronicity. For example, if a hero from some future Zelda title, let's say a game set in the Adult River, were to transport himself into Lorule, he should find himself arriving into Lorule's equivalent of the Adult River, as they are bound together. No matter what time travel shenanigans he employs while he's there, he should still remain synchronized with the timeline he came from, barring the potential that he causes another split himself. This perspective seems to keep things contained in their own little compartments and doesn't allow the changes made due to time travel to alter any timelines other than its own. However, what about the opposing view? If Lorule's river is not split apart like Hyrule's is, how would that change how we understand the timelines? It is a fact that there is no evidence to suggest that anything ever happened in Lorule that would cause their flow of history to shatter. With that being the case, the logical assumption would be to presume that the timeline is intact until proven otherwise. With this perspective, the outcome of a hero visiting Lorule has drastic implications. Using A Link Between Worlds hero as an example, when he traveled into Lorule under this perspective, he would not arrive in Lorule's equivalent of the Third River. Instead, he would arrive in the single, unbroken history of that universe. This is what appears to take place in the game's events, after all. But here is where things begin to get a bit crazy. Imagine for a moment that several people have traveled into Lorule from Hyrule across all of Hyrule's timelines. Under our current perspective, where would those characters appear in Lorule's history? I would suggest that it is hypothetically possible that using this method, heroes from completely separate timelines in Hyrule would be able to meet one another. Further still, it would enable characters from one timeline to enter into another timeline. As a brief example, If the hero from A Link Between Worlds and a hero from the Child River were to travel to Lorule through their own ways, it would be possible for elements, histories, information, or even people to travel from one timeline to another. So, how does this information change everything for the timelines in Zelda? This would complicate things greatly, as it would open many explanations for things in the series. For example, in The Wind Waker, the legend of the fairy told to us by Tingle now has a potential explanation as to why that story claims that Tingle helped the Hero of Time in the Adult River, when the Hero of Time could only have ever met Tingle in the Child River. When you think about how other games mention events that take place in a timeline that isn't theirs, this idea provides a way to explain it, like Triforce heroes having references to the Fierce Deity or Linebeck's uniform. You could even take this idea to modern times with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. These games vaguely reference events and characters from all timelines, such as Misko's many treasures or the names of different locations. In an extreme example, this leaves the door open for Nintendo to allow all sorts of shenanigans and crossovers. If you thought Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity pushed the envelope with Terraco and its time travel feats, this perspective could allow even crazier ideas to come to pass. If you've made it to this point in the video, you have absorbed some fairly nuanced and complicated information. However, what if I told you that there has been one character that may have already been crossing into other worlds this whole time? In A Link Between Worlds, we meet a supernatural cephalopod of great consequence. Mother Maiamai is a character the hero meets who fills the role of upgrading items during the adventure. Somehow, she manages to lose 100 of her babies across both Hyrule and Lorule, depending on Link to retrieve her lost progeny.
We were on a great voyage through all the worlds, my tykes and I. Then I lost sight of my little Maiamais, all 100 of my babies by and by.
After Link returns her final child, Mother Maiamai will bid the hero farewell, stating,
"It's a bit sudden, but we must bid you goodbye. I'm off to a different dimension with my Maiamais."
This revelation tells us much about the nature of the universe in Zelda. First, she confirms that there are multiple worlds or dimensions beyond just Hyrule and Lorule. This isn't too wild of a notion until you take into account that some of these worlds may have their very own Triforce, just like Hyrule and Lorule each had their own. This is very speculative, but has precedent. These dimensions that she speaks of aren't just limited to places like the Twilight Realm or the Demon World, but could be completely self-contained universes with their own Triforces. Secondly, she confirms that voyages between these worlds is possible outside of time travel shenanigans. If this is truly the case, it opens up even more ways for information and items from one world to make their way into a foreign world, such as knowledge about foreign characters and items making their way into Breath of the Wild. Also, when Mother Maiamai finally departs, one of her children decides to stay behind in Hyrule.
"I'm the 72nd Maiamai you saved. Thanks for all your help."
This baby will grow up, presumably with the same powers as its mother. Depending on what this little Maiamai has already seen on its treks across the world with its mom, this development could be an explanation for some of the timeline anomalies we see throughout the series. If Lorule does have multiple timelines of its own, there is a chance that Mother Maiamai or her child has been there to see them. As I'm sure you can see, the answer to the question of whether Lorule has a split timeline or not seems to cause many more questions to arise. I'm sure many of you will likely be able to think of all sorts of new theories or different interpretations of existing lore. Consider the origin of Null from Echoes of Wisdom. He was a Tri-like being whose appetite caused the Golden Goddesses to contain him within the earth. With the existence of multiple universes, This could vastly change the implications of Null's backstory and potentially deepen the true history behind how he wound up in the original voided pocket dimension in the first place. Suffice it to say that the already convoluted temporal mechanics of the Legend of Zelda series could be even more mind-boggling than we currently believe. Do you have any realizations or theories that tie in with this video? I'm eager to see what you come up with in the comments. If you survived this presentation, I'd love it if you could help this video get more reach by leaving a like and subscribing. You can find links to support my channel in the description. Your support means the world. My name is Caleb, and I'll see you in the next video here on the Fused Kinstone.